Picture this. You're a broke single mom about to lose your baby to some rich family, and then bim, Seoul's most dangerous gangster decides you're his problem now. This is chaos, this is beautiful, and this is about to wreck you emotionally. Quickly hit that like and subscribe button as we dive into the chaos. The baby appeared first, chubby hands gripping the edge of Bin Young's mahogany desk, pulling herself up with the determination of someone who'd already decided this office belonged to her now. Bin Young stopped mid-sentence. The contract he'd been reviewing blurred into meaningless symbols as his brain tried to process what his eyes were seeing. Baby. In his office. Drooling on his quarterly financial reports. Sir, I'm so sorry. The woman rushed in, breathless and panicked, her brown skin flushed darker with embarrassment. His accountant. The one who'd been working for him for 3 months and never once made a mistake with the numbers. She scooped up the baby, but the child immediately reached back toward Bin Young's desk, making grabbing motions with her tiny fists and cooing like she'd just discovered buried treasure. Please forgive me, she was right next to me and then she wasn't, and I turned around and she'd crawled so fast. Bin Young should have been angry. He'd fired people for less. His reputation across Seoul's underground wasn't built on tolerance for chaos or cute interruptions. But something stopped him. Maybe it was how the baby was looking at him now, head tilted, studying his face with the intensity of a tiny philosopher trying to solve the universe's greatest mystery. How old? He asked, surprising himself. Kathy blinked. What? The baby. How old is she? Oh. 10 months. Her name's Marvelous. Kathy shifted the child on her hip, looking like she wanted the floor to swallow her whole. My sitter canceled last minute and I couldn't miss this meeting and I thought I could keep her in the carrier, but she's been crawling for 2 weeks now and she's fast and... You're rambling. Right. Sorry. I'll go. I can email the quarterly report. Sit down. Kathy froze. Marvelous reached for Bin Young again, making that same cooing sound, and he felt something crack in his chest. Something he'd kept sealed for 50 years. He'd never wanted children. Never even liked them. Sticky hands, endless noise, the neediness of it all. But this baby was looking at him like he hung the moon, and he couldn't remember the last time anyone looked at him with anything other than fear or calculation. The report, he said, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. You came here to present it. So present it. Kathy sat slowly like she thought the chair might explode. Marvelous immediately lunged forward, palms slapping on the desk surface, pulling herself to standing while holding the edge. She grinned at Bin Young, 2 bottom teeth showing, and his mouth twitched before he could stop it. The numbers are all in the document I sent yesterday, Kathy started, her voice shaky. Revenues up 17% from last quarter, expenses down by 8%, and the new investment in the shipping company has already shown. Marvelous grabbed a pen from his desk, put it directly in her mouth. Marvelous and oh, Kathy reached across, but Bin Young was faster. He plucked the pen from the baby's grip and replaced it with a smooth river stone he kept on his desk, a gift from his dead mother, probably the only sentimental thing he owned. The baby examined the stone with wonder, turned it over in her hands, tried to bite it, decided it wasn't food, then held it up to show him like she just made a groundbreaking discovery. She likes it, he said quietly. Kathy stared at him like he'd sprouted wings. Yes. She does. For the next 20 minutes, Kathy presented her findings while Marvelous played with the stone and occasionally slapped the desk for emphasis at random moments. Bin Young found himself listening to both performances, the accountant's sharp analysis and the baby's babbling commentary. When Kathy finished, he leaned back in his chair. The shipping investment was your idea. Yes, sir. Don't call me sir. It's Bin Young. He watched Marvelous try to climb onto the desk. Failed. Tried again. You have good instincts. Thank you, Bin Young. He should have dismissed her then. Should have sent them both away and returned to his carefully constructed life of calculated risks and controlled chaos. But instead he heard himself ask, "Where's the father?" Kathy's entire body went rigid. Marvelous, sensing the shift in her mother's mood, looked up and reached for her face, patting her cheek with one chubby hand. He's dead, Kathy said flatly. Car accident. 4 months ago. I'm sorry. Don't be. You didn't know him. Her jaw tightened. Nobody really did, apparently. There was a story there. Bin-young had built his empire on reading between lines, on hearing what people didn't say. He waited. Kathy looked at Marvelous, who was now trying to eat her own fist. His family, they didn't know about us. About her. He kept us separate. Secret. And now they want. Her voice cracked. She cleared her throat. They want to take her. For custody. Because their son can't have died without leaving behind the proper heir, and I'm just the woman who trapped him, apparently. Bin-young's hands curled into fists under the desk. And what do you want? To keep my daughter. The fire in Kathy's voice could have melted steel. She's mine. I don't care about their money or their name or their family legacy. She's mine. But they're coming for her anyway. Kathy's silence was answer enough. Marvelous started fussing and she automatically began bouncing her, swaying in that universal parent rhythm. I was in the foster system growing up, she said quietly. Group homes in Johannesburg until I was 18. Worked my way through university, moved here for better opportunities. Marvelous father. He said he loved me. Said he'd tell his family. Said we'd be together. She laughed bitterly. Guess he loved his family's approval more. And now they think they can just take her because I have no family, no support, no? You have me now. The words fell out of Bin-young's mouth before his brain approved them. Kathy's head snapped up, eyes wide. What? He didn't know what possessed him. Maybe it was the baby still clutching his river stone-like treasure. Maybe it was the way Kathy looked, fierce and terrified at the same time, fighting a battle she couldn't win alone. Maybe it was because he remembered being the unwanted child, the orphan, the one nobody claimed until he made himself too dangerous to ignore. I said you have me now, he repeated, slower this time. If they want to take your daughter, they'll have to go through me first. You don't even know me. I know you're the best accountant I've had in 15 years. I know you show up early and stay late. I know you just walked into a meeting with a baby rather than miss your deadline. He paused. And I know you love your daughter enough to fight impossible odds. That's enough. Kathy's eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them back aggressively. Why would you help me? You don't owe me anything. Consider it an investment. He stood, walked around the desk. Marvelous immediately reached for him, and before he could think better of it, he was holding her. She was warm and solid and smelled like baby soap and innocence. I don't have children. Never wanted them. But your daughter just crawled into my office like she owned it, and... He stopped. And maybe I'm tired of everything in my life being a calculation. Marvelous grabbed his nose. Squeezed. Giggled when he made a surprised grunt. She's never done that to anyone before, Kathy whispered. She's usually scared of strangers. Cries if anyone except me holds her. Bin-young looked down at Marvelous, who was now exploring his face with her hands like he was a fascinating new toy. Smart girl. She knows who she can trust. You're a gangster. I prefer businessman with unconventional methods. He handed Marvelous back carefully. But yes. Which means I have resources. Legal teams. People who know how to make problems disappear without violence. If this family wants a war over custody, I can make sure it's a war they lose. I can't pay you. I'm not asking you to. He returned to his chair, already mentally cataloging who he'd need to call. But I want something in return. Kathy's expression shuddered immediately, and he realized what she thought he meant. Not that, he said sharply. I'm 50 years old. You're my employee. And frankly, I'm insulted you'd think I'd use this situation like that. Her shoulders dropped with relief. Then what? Your daughter keeps my river stone. And you stop working yourself half to death. I've seen your hours. You're doing the job of 3 people. I need the money. Then I'll pay you what 3 people should make. He pulled out his phone, started typing. And you'll work from home 3 days a week so you can be with Marvelous. Non-negotiable. Kathy stared at him like he was speaking another language. I don't understand. Neither do I, probably. But your daughter looked at me like I was worth something today, and I haven't felt that in. He trailed off. It doesn't matter. What matters is keeping her safe. When are they coming for her? Tomorrow. They filed emergency custody papers. Said I'm an unfit mother because I work too much and have no support system. Her voice cracked again. They're sending someone to my apartment at 6 p.m. Bin-young checked his watch. 4:30 p.m. now. Pack a bag. You're both coming home with me tonight. What? No, I can't. They don't know where I live. My building has security that makes Fort Knox look like a children's playground. You'll be safe there while my lawyers shred their custody claim. He stood again. This isn't a request, Kathy. If you want to keep your daughter, you need to disappear until we have legal protection in place. Can you trust me? She looked at Marvelous, who was still holding the river stone and babbling happily. Then back at him. I don't even know you. No. But you're an orphan fighting to protect your child. I'm an orphan who built an empire from nothing. We're the same, you and I. We know what it means to fight alone. He extended his hand. So don't fight alone anymore. Kathy studied his face for a long moment. Marvelous reached toward him again, making grabbing motions with one hand while clutching the stone with the other. Finally, Kathy took his hand. Hey. Yes. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. He released her hand and grabbed his phone again, already dialing. Mincio? I need the penthouse prepared for guests. 2 of them. Yes, immediately. And call Attorney Kong. Tell him I need every custody lawyer in Seoul who owes us a favor ready for a meeting first thing tomorrow morning. He hung up, looked at Kathy. Can you drive? Yes, but I don't have a car. I take the subway. Not anymore. Jihoon will drive you to your apartment. You have 15 minutes to pack essentials. He'll watch the entrance while you're inside. If anyone approaches, he'll handle it. Handle it how? Persuasively. Not violently. He saw her expression and added, I'm not going to hurt anyone, but I am very good at making people reconsider their life choices through conversation. That's ominous. It's effective. He texted his driver. Jihoon will be downstairs in 3 minutes. I'll follow in my car once I handle some business here. You'll meet me at the penthouse. Address will be sent to your phone. This is happening so fast. Because we don't have time for slow. They'll be at your apartment in 90 minutes. We need to be gone before then. He looked at Marvelous, who yawned and nestled against Kathy's shoulder. Besides, she's already decided. Look at her. She knows she's safe now. And somehow, impossibly, it was true. The baby who'd crawled into his office had also crawled into something else. Some locked room in Bin-young's heart he'd forgotten existed. He just hoped he remembered how to keep promises. The last person he'd promised to protect had been his mother, and he'd failed her. He'd been too young, too powerless, too late. But he wasn't powerless anymore. Go, he said gently. Pack. Bring anything that matters. You're not going back there for a while. Kathy nodded, stood, adjusted Marvelous on her hip. At the door she turned back. Why are you really doing this? Bin-young looked at her, this fierce young mother with everything to lose, and told her the truth. Because 30 years ago I was a child nobody wanted. And I swore if I ever had the power to stop that from happening to someone else, I would. Your daughter isn't going to grow up wondering if she was worth fighting for. Oh no. Because I'm going to make sure she never doubts it. Something shifted in Kathy's expression. Understanding maybe. Or hope. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you. After they left, Bin-young sat in the silence of his office and realized his hands were shaking. 50 years old, and he'd just invited chaos into his carefully ordered life. A woman and a baby. Custody battles and legal wars. His phone buzzed. A text from Soiree, the woman who'd been trying to become his wife for the past 2 years through sheer stubborn determination. Dinner tonight? I made reservations at that place you like. He deleted it without responding. It was complicated. Beautiful, connected, useful for his business. But she looked at him like he was a prize to be won, not a person to be known. And she'd made her feelings about children abundantly clear. Disgusting little creatures that ruined everything. Funny how a 10-month-old with drool on her chin had just rearranged his entire life's priorities in under an hour. His phone rang. Mincio, his head of security. The penthouse is ready, sir. I've also stationed additional security on the ground floor and parking levels. Nobody unauthorized gets within 50 feet. Good. Have Attorney Myong call me as soon as possible. Minzo? This situation, it's personal. Not business. Pause. Understood, sir. We'll protect them like family. They are family now, Bin-young said, surprising himself again. Make sure everyone knows that. He hung up, grabbed his coat and headed for the door. Halfway there he stopped and looked back at his desk. at the spot where Marvelous had been standing, gripping the edge with determination. Maybe this was the dumbest decision he'd ever made. Or maybe it was the first real decision he'd made in decades. Either way, there was no going back now. Bin-young's penthouse looked like something from a magazine. All glass walls and city lights and furniture that probably cost more than most people made in a year. Kathy stood in the entryway holding Marvelous, feeling distinctly out of place. The guest room is this way, Min-seo said, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and the posture of someone who could probably kill you 6 different ways. I've set up a crib we borrowed from Mr. Kim on the 4th floor. He has 3 children and was happy to help. You told him about us? Kathy asked nervously. I told him the boss's goddaughter needed a safe place to stay. Min-seo smiled. And technically that's not a lie anymore, is it? Mr. Myung will make it official tomorrow. Official. Godfather status provides certain legal protections. Makes it harder for courts to separate a child from someone who's been designated as family. Min-seo opened a door to reveal a bedroom bigger than Kathy's entire apartment. The bathroom has everything you'll need. Fresh towels, toiletries. If you need anything else, just call extension 3 from any phone. Marvelous squirmed, reaching toward the floor. The moment Kathy set her down, she took off crawling toward the window wall, attracted by the lights of Seoul spread out below them. She's fast, Min-seo observed. Like a tiny rocket. Kathy caught up, scooped Marvelous away from the glass. Thank you. For all this. I still don't really understand what's happening, but thank you. Mr. Myung is different these days, Min-seo said thoughtfully. Quieter. Lonelier maybe. But today when he called about you and your daughter, I heard something in his voice I haven't heard in years. Purpose probably. He's good at taking care of people, you know. He just usually does it from a distance through money or lawyers or intimidation. This is the first time I've seen him do it, directly. He said he was an orphan too. He was very young when his mother died. The circumstances were. Min-seo paused. Difficult. He doesn't talk about it, but those of us who've worked for him long enough know the story. It shaped him. Made him who he is, both the good parts and the harder ones. What harder ones? He doesn't trust easily. Doesn't let people close. Assumes everyone wants something from him because usually they do. Min-seo moved toward the door. But your daughter. She didn't want anything except to explore his desk and steal his pen. Sometimes that's exactly what someone like him needs. A reminder that not everything is a transaction. After Min-seo left, Kathy fed Marvelous, changed her diaper and tried to process the past 3 hours of her life. This morning she'd been a broke single mother trying to figure out how to fight a custody battle with no money and no hope. Now she was in a penthouse belonging to one of Seoul's most dangerous men, and he'd just offered to become her daughter's godfather. It felt like a fever dream. The good kind maybe, but still. Marvelous was fighting sleep, fussy and overtired from the excitement. Kathy walked her around the room, bouncing gently, humming the lullaby her own mother had sung in the years before everything fell apart. Mama's got you, she whispered. You're safe now. No one's taking you anywhere. I promise. Marvelous' eyes were drooping when someone knocked on the door. Kathy tensed until she heard Bin-young's voice. It's me. Can I come in? She opened the door one-handed. He'd changed from his work clothes into something more casual. Jeans and a simple black shirt that somehow made him look younger. Less like a gangster, more like a man who maybe had hobbies and watched movies and lived a normal life sometimes. Attorney Myung just called, he said quietly. The custody papers your daughter's paternal family filed are aggressive. They're claiming you're unstable, financially irresponsible and emotionally unfit. They've also somehow gotten a judge to grant an emergency hearing tomorrow at 2 p.m. Kathy's stomach dropped. That fast. They have money and connections. They're using both. He stepped into the room, his eyes finding Marvelous. But so do I. Kang's assembling a team overnight. We'll have character witnesses, financial documentation, evidence of your stability and parenting capability. And I'll be there. As her godfather, officially. They'll look into you too, Kathy said. Your background. Your business. Let them. His expression hardened. I've been investigated by everyone from Interpol to the Korean National Police. They've never made anything stick because I'm very good at operating in gray areas. And my lawyers are even better at making inconvenient questions disappear. But what if? Kathy. He said her name like a fact, not a question. I told you I'd handle this. Trust me. He wanted to. God, she really wanted to. I barely know you. You know enough. You know I kept my word about the apartment. Jihoon said no one approached while you were packing. You know I had this place secured and ready before you arrived. You know I called lawyers at 6 p.m. on a Wednesday and got them working immediately. He paused. And you know your daughter likes me and babies have good instincts about these things. As if on cue, Marvelous' eyes opened. She saw Bin Young and immediately reached for him, making her grabby hands gesture. See? He said, and there was something almost shy in his expression. She knows. You don't have to. I know I don't have to, but I want to. May I? Kathy handed Marvelous over, and the baby immediately settled against Bin Young's chest like she'd been doing it her entire life. He supported her with practiced ease, swaying gently. You're good at that, Kathy observed. Muscle memory probably. I had to take care of my mother sometimes when I was young, before she got too sick. His voice went distant. She had days where she couldn't get out of bed, so I'd bring her water, make sure she ate. Not exactly the same as holding a baby, but the motion is similar. What happened to her? Cancer. We couldn't afford treatment. By the time I'd saved enough money through various means, it was too late. He looked down at Marvelous. She was 32 when she died. I was 15. Old enough to be on my own but young enough that everyone assumed I'd fail. I spent the next 35 years proving them wrong. I'm sorry. It was a long time ago. But his jaw was tight and Kathy could see the pain still lived in him, buried but not dead. After she passed, I had two choices. Become a victim or become dangerous enough that no one could make me a victim again. I chose the latter. Built everything from nothing. Made people fear me, respect me, or both. And now I'm 50 years old and most people still fear me, but I'm not sure they should. He glanced at her. Your daughter doesn't fear me. You don't either, not really. You're cautious, which is smart, but you're not afraid. Why? Kathy considered this. Because when you held Marvelous earlier, your whole face changed. You looked soft. Not scary. Just human. Dangerous word, that. Human. In my line of work, showing humanity gets you killed. But you showed it anyway. Yes. He resumed, swaying with Marvelous, who was now almost asleep. I did. Which means I'm either getting old and sentimental, or your daughter really did crawl into my soul when she crawled into my office. Possibly both. She has that effect on people. I believe it. He smiled down at Marvelous, and Kathy's heart did something complicated in her chest. This was dangerous. Not the gangster part, but the way he was being careful with her daughter. The way he'd rearranged his entire evening to keep them safe. The way he looked at Marvelous like she was something precious. Don't get attached, she told herself. This is temporary. He's helping because he feels obligated, not because he cares. But then Marvelous made a tiny sleeping sound, and Bin Young's entire expression melted, and Kathy thought maybe she was lying to herself about the not caring part. You should eat something, he said quietly. There's food in the kitchen. Mincio made sure we're stocked. I'm not hungry. Liar. When did you last eat? Breakfast, probably. Kathy. I was busy. Marvelous had a doctor's appointment, then I had to finish the quarterly report and I didn't have time. That stops now. His voice went firm. If you're going to fight for your daughter, you need to be strong. That means eating, sleeping, taking care of yourself. You can't protect her if you collapse. I'm fine. You're running on fumes and stubbornness. He walked toward the door, still holding Marvelous. Come on. I'll put her in the crib while you eat. Non-negotiable. You're very bossy. It's kind of my whole thing, yes. They moved through the penthouse to the kitchen. All marble countertops and gleaming appliances. Mincio had indeed stocked everything. Bin Young somehow managed to warm up soup one-handed while keeping Marvelous asleep against his shoulder. That's impressive, Kathy said, sitting at the counter. I'm a man of many talents. He set the bowl in front of her. Eat. All of it. I'll wait. You don't have to babysit me. I'm babysitting your daughter. You're just bonus supervision. But his eyes were warm and Kathy found herself smiling despite everything. The soup was good, homemade probably. She ate while Bin Young walked around the kitchen with Marvelous, humming under his breath. Some old Korean melody Kathy didn't recognize. My mother used to sing that, he said when he noticed her watching. When I couldn't sleep. It's probably the only thing I remember clearly about her besides the end. Will you tell me about her? The before the end parts. He was quiet for a long moment. She was strong. Fierce. Worked 3 jobs to keep us fed and housed. Never complained even when I knew she was in pain. She used to say. He swallowed. She used to say that loving someone meant fighting for them even when the fight seemed impossible. That family wasn't about blood. It was about who showed up when everything was falling apart. She sounds amazing. She was. And she would have liked you probably. Would have definitely loved Marvelous. He looked down at the sleeping baby. She always wanted grandchildren. Didn't live long enough to see them, obviously. Is that why you never had kids? Part of it, maybe. Mostly I didn't think I'd be good at it. Thought I'd mess them up the way I was messed up. Figured the world was better off without little versions of me running around. He met Kathy's eyes. But holding your daughter today, I don't know. Maybe I was wrong about myself. Or maybe she's just special enough to make me want to try. Kathy's throat felt tight. She's special. But so are you. Don't get carried away. I'm still a criminal, remember? A criminal who makes soup and hums lullabies and promises to protect orphans. She finished her bowl. Pretty sure that's not standard gangster behavior. Technically, I had Mincio make the soup. And the humming is purely strategic. Babies respond well to consistent auditory patterns. And protecting people is just good business. You're really bad at accepting compliments. Occupational hazard. He smiled and it transformed his whole face. Made him look less like a man who'd built an empire on fear and more like someone who might have been different in another life. Come on. Let's get Marvelous into the crib. You need sleep too. They moved back to the guest room together. Bin Young laid Marvelous in the crib with surprising gentleness, adjusting her blanket and making sure the river stone was nearby. She'd refused to let it go all evening. She's going to lose that somewhere, Kathy whispered. Then I'll find it. Or get her a new one. The world has plenty of river stones. But that one was your mother's. Yes. And now it's Marvelous. My mother would have wanted that. He stepped back from the crib. Get some rest. Tomorrow's going to be long. Wait. Kathy caught his arm as he turned to leave. Why are you really doing this? And don't say it's business or investment or strategy. Tell me the truth. He looked at her hand on his arm, then at her face. For a moment she thought he wouldn't answer. Then he said, because when your daughter looked at me today she didn't see a gangster or a criminal or someone to be afraid of. She saw someone worth smiling at. And I haven't been that person, someone worth smiling at, in 35 years. I forgot what it felt like. So maybe I'm being selfish probably. Maybe I'm helping you because it helps me remember I used to be human before I became something else. Kathy's eyes burned with tears she refused to shed. You're still human, Bin Young. You're just scared people will notice. Maybe. Or maybe I'm scared they won't. He gently removed her hand from his arm. Sleep. I'll be down the hall if you need anything. Door stays unlocked. After he left, Kathy stood by the crib watching Marvelous sleep and wondering how her life had become this strange new thing. 24 hours ago she'd been alone and terrified. Now she had a gangster godfather and a penthouse fortress and the beginnings of something that felt dangerously like hope. She didn't trust it yet. Hope had failed her before, when her parents died, when the foster system chewed her up, when Marvelous' father promised forever and delivered abandonment instead. But maybe, she thought as she finally crawled into the unfamiliar bed, maybe this time would be different. Maybe this time someone would actually keep their promises. Maybe Bin Young meant it when he said he'd fight for them. She'd know soon enough. Tomorrow at 2 p.m., everything would either fall apart or hold together. And somewhere down the hall she knew Bin Young was probably sitting in the dark, wondering the same thing. The courtroom was smaller than Kathy expected. Just a judge's bench, 2 tables and enough tension to choke on. She sat beside Attorney Myong while Bin Young sat 1 row behind them, a silent presence that somehow made her feel both safer and more terrified. Across the aisle, Marvelous' paternal family had assembled their own army. 3 lawyers in expensive suits and 2 people Kathy recognized from photos in Marvelous' father's apartment. His parents. Older, refined, looking at her like she was something they'd scraped off their shoes. All rise for the Honorable Judge Park. Everyone stood. The judge entered. A woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and an expression that suggested she'd seen every manipulation tactic in existence and wasn't impressed by any of them. Be seated. We're here regarding emergency custody petition filed by Mr. and Mrs. Jong regarding the minor child, Marvelous Jong. Ms. Kathy George is the respondent. Judge Huan looked at the papers in front of her. This hearing will determine temporary custody pending a full investigation. Let's start with the petitioners. State your case. The Jong's lead lawyer stood. A man with silver hair and the kind of confidence that came from winning too often. Your Honor, our clients are the paternal grandparents of Marvelous Jong. They only recently learned of their granddaughter's existence following their son's tragic death. Upon investigation, they discovered that the child's mother, Ms. George, is a foreign national with no family support system, working excessive hours in an unconventional business environment, and living in unstable housing. They fear for the child's welfare and seek temporary custody while proper arrangements can be made. Unconventional business environment? Judge Huan raised an eyebrow. Elaborate. Ms. George is employed by Mr. Myong Binyung, who is. I know who Mr. Myong is, the judge interrupted. Continue. Given Mr. Kang's reputation, and the fact that Ms. George brought the child into his place of business, we question the safety and appropriateness of the child's current environment. Your Honor, Attorney Myong stood. Ms. George is a licensed accountant working in a legitimate business capacity. She has never been investigated for any wrongdoing, has no criminal record, and by all accounts is an exemplary mother. This petition is based on speculation and prejudice, not fact. We have evidence, Silverhair countered, that Ms. George works 70-hour weeks, cannot afford adequate childcare, and last night, just yesterday, moved herself and the child into Mr. Kang's personal residence. This suggests either an inappropriate relationship or, at minimum, an unstable living situation. Kathy felt her face heat with anger and shame. Behind her she sensed Bin Young shift forward, but he remained silent. Attorney Kong? Judge Huan gestured for response. Ms. George moved into secure housing after learning of this custody petition specifically because she feared for her daughter's safety. The Jong family sent representatives to her apartment yesterday evening. To speak with her, Silverhair interrupted. Hardly threatening. At 6 p.m. on a Wednesday, unannounced, despite Ms. George making clear she didn't want contact. That's not conversation, it's intimidation. Attorney Myong pulled out a folder. I have statements from Ms. George's neighbors describing how 3 individuals waited outside her building for over an hour, making phone calls and taking photographs. One neighbor, a former police officer, described the behavior as surveillance. Judge Huan frowned. Is this true? The Jong's lawyer hesitated. We were simply trying to establish contact. By stalking her building? The judge looked unimpressed. Continue, Attorney Kong. As for Mr. Kang's involvement, he has agreed to serve as the child's godfather and legal guardian should anything happen to Ms. George. This provides the family support structure the petitioners claim is lacking. We have his financial records, background checks, and character references here. He handed papers to the bailiff. Mr. Myong has no criminal convictions, pays his taxes, and runs multiple legitimate businesses. Any rumors about his activities are exactly that, rumors. Your Honor, this is clearly a romantic entanglement, Silverhair said desperately. Ms. George is using Mr. Kang's resources to avoid proper custody arrangements. I'm not sleeping with him, Kathy heard herself say. Everyone turned to look at her. Attorney Myong made a small gesture that might have been approval or warning. He stood anyway. I'm not. I barely know him. But yesterday when I thought I was going to lose my daughter, he offered to help. Not because he wants something from me, but because... She looked back at Bin Young. Because he's a decent man who remembers what it's like to be alone. Ms. George, Judge Huan said, you'll have a chance to testify. Please sit. No, I need to say this now. Kathy felt tears building but pushed through. Marvelous' father kept us hidden for 2 years. Secret. Like we were something to be ashamed of. His family didn't even know we existed until he died, and now suddenly they care? They don't want Marvelous because they love her. They never met her. They want her because she's his heir. His legacy. But she's not a legacy. She's a baby. My baby. And I've taken care of her every single day of her life while they were living in their big house pretending we didn't exist. Miss George. And yes, I work a lot because I have to. Because I don't have family money or connections or anyone to fall back on. But that doesn't make me unstable. It makes me strong. It makes me someone who fights for what matters. And what matters is keeping my daughter safe and loved, which is more than her father did and definitely more than his family has ever done. The courtroom was silent. Judge Juan studied Kathy for a long moment. Are you finished? No. Kathy took a shaking breath. One more thing. You want to question Mr. Kang's character? Fine. Question mine too. Investigate everything. But while you're doing that, ask yourselves this. Who showed up for Marvelous when she needed someone? Not her father. Not his family. Me. And now Mr. Kong. We're the ones who actually showed up. That should count for something. She sat down. Attorney Myong leaned over and whispered, that was either brilliant or catastrophic. We'll find out which. Judge Juan was writing notes. Finally she looked up. I want to hear from Mr. Myong directly. Please approach. Bin Young walked forward with the kind of calm that came from facing worse things than courtrooms. He stopped before the bench. Mr. Kong, you understand that godfather status comes with legal responsibilities? Yes, Your Honor. And you're prepared to assume those responsibilities for a child you met. When exactly? Yesterday afternoon, Your Honor. A murmur ran through the courtroom. Judge Park's expression didn't change. That's very fast. Yes. It is. Bin Young glanced at Kathy. But some decisions don't need time, they need conviction. I have the resources to protect this child and support her mother. I have the motivation to ensure Marvelous grows up safe and loved. And I have the legal right to offer that support regardless of how quickly I made the choice. Why? Judge Juan leaned forward. Why this child? This mother? You could support anyone. Why them? Because, Bin Young stopped. Started again. Because yesterday Marvelous crawled into my office like she owned the place. And when I picked her up, she looked at me like I was someone worth trusting. No one's looked at me like that in 35 years, Your Honor. So maybe I'm being selfish. Maybe I'm helping because it helps me remember what it feels like to be human. But regardless of my reasons, the facts remain. I can protect this family, I want to protect this family, and I will protect this family. Legal or not. That almost sounded like a threat, Mr. Kong. It was a promise, Your Honor. There's a difference. Judge Juan smiled slightly. Indeed there is. She made more notes. I'm going to order a 30-day investigation into both parties. Ms. George's living situation and parenting capability, and Mr. Kang's suitability as a guardian. During that time, custody remains with Ms. George, with Mr. Myong designated as emergency guardian. The Zhang family will have no contact with the child pending investigation results. Your Honor. Silver Hair stood. That's completely what it is, Judge Juan said firmly, is my decision. Ms. George and Mr. Myong provided compelling testimony about showing up and fighting for this child. The Zhang family provided legal arguments and surveillance evidence. I know which one impresses me more. She looked at the Zhangs. If you genuinely care about your granddaughter, you'll respect this process and prove you're capable of putting her needs ahead of your pride. Dismissed. The gavel fell. Kathy couldn't breathe. Couldn't process. They'd won. For now. 30 days. That went better than expected, Attorney Myong murmured. Judge Juan is tough but fair. She saw through their manipulation. Bin Young returned to them, his expression unreadable. We need to leave before they try to approach. Already ahead of you, Attorney Myong said. Ji-hoon's bringing the car to the back entrance. They moved quickly through side corridors, away from the main lobby where the Zhangs were probably regrouping. Kathy felt light and heavy at the same time, relief and terror mixed into something that made her hands shake. In the car, Bin Young sat beside her while Ji-hoon drove. Min-seo was in the front passenger seat, already on the phone coordinating something. Thank you, Kathy whispered. For what you said. About being human. I meant it. He wasn't looking at her, watching the city pass by instead. Your daughter did something yesterday that I didn't think was possible anymore. She made me care about someone other than myself. That's significant. What happens now? Now we prepare for the investigation. They'll interview you, check your apartment, talk to neighbors, review your employment records. They'll do the same with me, though my records are more complicated. Will they find anything bad? Probably. I'm not perfect. But I'm not what they think I am either. He finally looked at her. The question is whether you're prepared for what they'll discover. My past isn't pretty, Kathy. I've done things I'm not proud of. Made choices that kept me alive but cost me pieces of my soul. I don't care. You should. But I don't. She touched his hand briefly. You showed up. That's what matters. He stared at where she touched him like he was trying to memorize the feeling. I hope you still feel that way in 30 days. They returned to the penthouse, where Marvelous was napping under Min Seo's supervision. The moment Kathy walked in, she went to the nursery and just stood watching her daughter sleep. Still hers. For now. Bin Young appeared in the doorway. You should rest too. Can't. Too much energy. Then come with me. I want to show you something. He led her through the penthouse to a door she hadn't noticed before. Behind it was a staircase going up. At the top was the roof, a garden oasis hidden in the sky with plants and benches and a view of Seoul that stole her breath. This is beautiful, she whispered. My mother loved gardens. After she died, I built this. Somewhere she would have liked to sit. He moved to a bench. I come here when I need to think. To remember who I was before I became who I am. Kathy sat beside him. Who were you? A kid who wanted to save his mother and couldn't. Who learned that being good wasn't enough. You had to be strong. Dangerous even. So I became dangerous. He looked at his hands. But dangerous people don't get families. Don't get softness. And after a while I convinced myself I didn't want those things anyway. And now there's a 10-month-old baby who thinks I'm worth smiling at. And her mother who thinks I'm human despite all evidence to the contrary. And I'm terrified probably because if I care about you both, which I do more than I should, then I can lose you. And I'm very bad at losing things. Kathy's heart was breaking and mending at the same time. Then don't lose us. Fight for us. Keep showing up. What if showing up isn't enough? It will be. Because you're Myung Bin Young and you don't fail at things you actually care about. She smiled. That's what attorney Myung told me anyway. Said you're stubborn as hell. He's not wrong. Bin Young smiled back and something warm passed between them. Not romantic exactly. Not yet. But the beginning of something. Trust maybe. Or recognition. Two people who'd both fought impossible battles and survived. Thank you, Kathy said again. For the soup and the lawyers in the roof garden. For all of it. Thank me in 30 days when we've won completely. He stood, offered his hand to help her up. Until then we prepare. And we protect what matters. His hand was warm and hers solid and real. What matters? Your daughter. This thing we're building, whatever it is. What is it, do you think? Bin Young considered this. Family probably. The kind you choose instead of the kind you're born into. The kind that shows up when everything's falling apart. I like that definition. So do I. He released her hand but didn't step away. Now come on. Marvelous will wake up soon and I promised Min Seo I'd show her how to make my mother's recipes. Apparently babies need more than soup and determination. That's probably true. They went back downstairs together and for the first time in months, Kathy felt something that resembled peace. Not permanent maybe. Not guaranteed. But real enough to hold on to while they fought for the rest. The investigation took 17 days to go completely sideways. Not because of anything Kathy did. Her interviews went fine, her apartment passed inspection, her references glowed. The problem was Soiree. She appeared at the penthouse on day 18, bypassing security somehow and showing up at the door with murder in her eyes and designer clothes worth someone's yearly salary. Where is she? Soiree demanded when Min Seo answered. The woman who's stolen my place. I don't know what you're talking about, Min Seo said calmly. And you need to leave. You're not authorized to be here. I've been coming here for 2 years. I'm obviously authorized. Not anymore. Min Seo moved to close the door, but Soiree pushed past her, stumbling into the entryway. That's when Kathy emerged from the kitchen, holding Marvelous flour on her shirt from attempting Min Seo's recipes. What's happening? Soiree's eyes went wide then narrow. You're the accountant. The one with the... Her gaze fell on Marvelous. Oh, I see. That's how you did it. Got yourself pregnant and trapped him. Excuse me. Kathy felt anger rise sharp and hot. I don't even know who you are. I'm his girlfriend. Or I was until you showed up with your bastard child and ruined everything. Soiree. Bin Young's voice cracked like thunder. He'd appeared from his office, face dark with fury. Get out. Now. No. I deserve an explanation, Bin Young. 2 years I've been patient. 2 years I've waited for you to finally see we're perfect together. And now you're playing house with her. I'm not playing anything. This is none of your business. Not my business? Sure's voice went shrill. I've built my entire life around you. My friends know we're together. My family expects an engagement. You can't just... We were never together, Bin Young said coldly. You decided we were dating. I let you believe it because it was convenient for business. But I never promised you anything, Soiree. Never said I loved you. Never asked you to wait. You did that yourself. The words hit like physical blows. Soiree stumbled back. You're lying. We had dinners. Meetings. You let me stay over. Twice. In 2 years. When business ran late and driving home seemed stupid. And both times I slept on the couch. His expression was merciless. I'm sorry if you misunderstood the situation, but that's on you, not me. This is her fault, Suer pointed at Kathy. You never would've. She has nothing to do with this. This is about you and your delusions. I'm not the man you think I am and I never was. I was just too polite to shatter your fantasies until now. Polite. Suer laughed wildly. You're a gangster. You don't do polite. Watch me. He pulled out his phone, texted someone. Security will escort you out. Don't come back. Don't call. Don't contact me or anyone in this household again. If you do, I'll file a restraining order. You can't. I can and I will. He stepped between Soiree and Kathy. And if you go near Marvelous or her mother, you'll discover exactly how impolite I can be. Are we clear? 2 security guards appeared. They didn't touch Soiree, but their presence made the message obvious. She looked between them and Bin Young and something ugly crossed her face. You'll regret this, she hissed. All of you. I doubt it. But you're welcome to try your best. Bin Young nodded to the guards. Please make sure Ms. Huan finds her way out. And update her access permissions to permanently banned. After Soiree was escorted away, still shouting threats, silence fell over the penthouse. Kathy realized she was shaking. Marvelous, sensing her mother's distress, had started crying. I'm sorry, Bin Young said quietly. That shouldn't have happened. She seemed intense. She's delusional. I should have handled it earlier more firmly. But I thought if I just stayed distant she'd eventually lose interest. He ran his hand through his hair. I underestimated her attachment. My mistake. Mincio appeared with tea, pressing a cup into Kathy's free hand. Soiree has been persistent for years. We all thought it was harmless. Annoying but harmless. It wasn't harmless if she thinks she has claim to you, Kathy said to Bin Young. If she thinks we're threats to her place. She doesn't have a place. She never did. His jaw tightened. But you're right. She might cause problems. I'll have Attorney Myong file the restraining order tonight. And I'll increase security around the building. She knows about Marvelous now. About the custody case. The implication hung in the air. Soiree was connected, wealthy, vindictive. If she wanted to hurt them, she could probably find ways. Then we'll be ready, Bin Young said firmly. She's one woman with bruised pride. We're a family with actual reasons to fight. She doesn't stand a chance. But Kathy couldn't shake the feeling that things were about to get worse before they got better. He was right. 3 days later, the investigators called with questions about Bin Young's live-in girlfriend, and whether the household was appropriate for a child given the obvious romantic entanglement and dramatic confrontations. Someone talked, Attorney Myong said during the emergency meeting. Gave the investigators a very specific version of events that makes it look like you two are in an unstable relationship. We're not in any relationship, Kathy protested. I know that. You know that. But someone, probably Soiree, convinced the investigators otherwise. And now they're questioning the entire custody arrangement. He looked grim. This isn't fatal to the case, but it's definitely damaging. They might extend the investigation period or request supervised visits. No. Bin Young's voice was absolute. Marvelous stays with her mother. Non-negotiable. Then we need to prove definitively that this is a guardian situation, not a romantic one. Which means... Attorney Myong hesitated. Which means you two need to maintain clear boundaries. Separate living spaces, minimal contact, professional distance. For the next 2 weeks until the investigation concludes. Kathy felt something crack in her chest. She'd gotten used to the penthouse. To having backup when Marvelous got sick or Kathy needed sleep. To Minseo's cooking and Bin Young's quiet presence and the feeling of not being alone for the first time in years. That's ridiculous, she said. We're not doing anything wrong. I know. But perception matters here. And right now the perception is complicated. Attorney Myong looked apologetic. I'm sorry. I know this isn't fair. But if we want to win we need to play by their rules. Bin Young was silent for a long moment. Then he said, fine. I'll move to my other property across the city. Kathy and Marvelous stay here with Minseo in full security. We'll maintain the guardian relationship legally but create physical distance for the investigation. And oh, Kathy said. This is your home. We'll leave. Absolutely not. This building is secure. Your old apartment isn't. And I'm not letting you and Marvelous become vulnerable because someone spread lies. His tone left no room for argument. I'll pack tonight. Minseo stays with you. Jihoon will drive you wherever you need to go. I'll attend any required meetings but otherwise keep distance until the investigation closes. This is wrong, Kathy whispered. We shouldn't have to. But we do. He met her eyes and she saw the frustration and helplessness there. Sometimes fighting means retreating strategically. This is one of those times. He moved out that night. Kathy watched from the roof garden as his car pulled away and felt absurdly like crying. Which was stupid. He was just her employer. Her daughter's godfather. Someone who'd helped when she needed it. Except he'd become more than that, hadn't he? Somewhere between the soup in the courtroom and the roof garden conversations. Somewhere in the space between his rough edges and her desperate hope. He'll be back, Minseo said gently, appearing beside her. 2 weeks. Then the investigation ends and you can figure out what this is. What is? Whatever's growing between you two. Don't pretend it's nothing. I've known Mr. Myong for 15 years. I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you and Marvelous. He looks at us like responsibilities. He looks at you like possibilities probably. Like maybe there's more to life than building empires and maintaining control. Minseo smiled. He's scared. That's why he agreed to leave so easily. Because caring about you both terrifies him, and distance feels safer than vulnerability. That's a lot of psychology for one night. I used to be a therapist before I became a security specialist. Long story. Minseo squeezed her shoulder. Give him time. And trust that he'll come back. Men like Bin Young don't run unless they're planning to return stronger. The 2 weeks crawled by. Kathy saw Bin Young twice. Once for a scheduled investigator interview where they barely spoke, and once when he stopped by to bring Marvelous a new toy because he'd heard she was teething. Both times felt wrong. Too formal. Too distant. Marvelous noticed. She kept looking for him, crawling to his usual chair, babbling questioning sounds. I know, baby, Kathy murmured. I miss him too. On day 13 of their separation, everything went completely wrong. Kathy was at the Huan with Marvelous and Minseo when 3 men approached. Smooth, professional, carrying that same energy the Zhang's lawyers had worn in court. Miss George? We're here on behalf of the Zhang family. They'd like to speak with you about a settlement. I'm not interested. Perhaps you should hear the offer first. They're prepared to drop the custody case entirely. Not interested. In exchange for a financial arrangement that would ensure your daughter's future. No. Kathy stood, picking up Marvelous. Tell the Zhangs that my daughter is not for sale. Not now. Not ever. Miss George, be reasonable. They're offering enough money to change your life. To give Marvelous every advantage. She already has every advantage. She has a mother who loves her. That's more than their money could ever buy. The lead man's expression hardened. You're making a mistake. The family has been generous in offering this compromise. If you refuse, they'll pursue full custody. And they will win. They have resources you can't match. She has me, a voice said behind them. Bin Young appeared from nowhere, moving to stand beside Kathy. And I have enough resources to bankrupt every lawyer in Seoul if necessary. So take your settlement offer and your threats and leave. Now. Mr. Kong, this doesn't concern. It concerns my goddaughter. Which makes it very much my business. You have 5 seconds to walk away before I make this a problem you can't solve with money. He didn't raise his voice. Didn't need to. The men looked at each other, then retreated, but not before one of them said, "This isn't over." "Yes," Bin Young said quietly. "It is. You just don't know it yet." After they left, Kathy turned to him. "What are you doing here?" "The investigation." "Forget the investigation. Minseo called me when she spotted them following you. I'm not staying away while people threaten you." His eyes were fierce. "And I'm done pretending distance keeps anyone safe. It doesn't. Being together does. Fighting together does." But Attorney Myong said. "Attorney Myong doesn't get to decide what risks I'm willing to take. You and Marvelous are my family now. That means I show up. Investigation or not. Consequences or not." He looked at Marvelous, who was reaching for him with both arms. "Besides, I think someone missed me." He took Marvelous and she immediately settled against his chest with a satisfied sound. And Kathy felt her heart do something dangerous and wonderful and completely inadvisable. "You can't keep rescuing us," she said softly. "Watch me." He met her eyes over Marvelous' head. "I failed my mother because I was too young and powerless. I'm not failing you. Not her. I'd rather lose every investigation and court case in existence than walk away now." "That's very dramatic." "It's very true." His voice gentled. "These past 2 weeks have been the longest of my life, probably. Going to sleep knowing you and Marvelous were here without me. Wondering if you were okay. She was teething or sick or just growing and I was missing it. I've lived 50 years building walls between myself and everyone else. But you two knocked them all down in 17 days. So no, I'm not staying away. Not anymore. Not ever. The investigators can investigate all they want. Let them see that I care about you both. Let them see that I'd move mountains to keep you safe. Maybe that'll scare them, but it's the truth. And I'm tired of hiding the truth." Kathy felt tears threatening. "You're going to make me cry in public. Then cry. It's allowed." He shifted Marvelous to one arm and used the other to pull Kathy closer. Not romantic, just solid. Proactive. "We're going to win this case. And then we're going to figure out what comes next. But we're doing it together. As a family." "Agreed." She nodded against his shoulder, breathing in his warmth and Marvelous baby smell and the faint scent of his soap. "Agreed." "Good." He pressed a kiss to the top of Marvelous' head, casual, natural, and Kathy felt her heart crack open completely. "Now let's go home. The real home. No more separation. No more distance. We face whatever comes next together." That night, back at the penthouse, Kathy put Marvelous to bed and found Bin Young on the roof garden. He was sitting on their bench looking at the city. "Can't sleep?" she asked. "Thinking probably. About today. About how close we came to." He didn't finish. "But we didn't. You showed up. Like always. Always feels like a big promise. Then make it." She sat beside him. "Promise you'll always show up. For Marvelous. For me. For this family we're building." He looked at her for a long moment. "You're asking me to be someone I haven't been in decades. Someone reliable. Consistent. Present. I'm asking you to be who you already are." She touched his hand. "The person who makes soup and hums lullabies and threatens lawyers. The person who gave Marvelous his mother's river stone. That person. What if I mess it up? What if I let you down? Then you'll try again. That's what family does. They fail and forgive and keep trying." She smiled. "Besides, you're Myong Bin Young. You don't fail at things you actually care about, remember?" He laughed quietly. "You're going to keep using that against me, aren't you?" "Absolutely." "Fair enough." He turned his hand to grip hers properly. "Hey. I promise. I'll show up. I'll be present. I'll be the person you and Marvelous think I am, even when I don't believe it myself. And I'll fight for this family every single day until the fighting's done." "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. We still have one more week of investigation, then the final custody hearing. Anything could happen. But we'll face it together. Yes, he agreed. Together. And sitting there in the garden under Seoul's lights, holding hands like anchors, they both believed it might actually be enough. The final hearing was scheduled for exactly 30 days after the first. A full month of investigations, interviews, and waiting. Kathy stood outside the courtroom with Bin Young and attorney Kong, trying not to throw up from nerves. They'll call character witnesses today, attorney Myung explained. Ours and theirs. Then Judge Hwan will make her final ruling on permanent custody. Are you ready? No, Kathy said honestly. But let's do it anyway. Inside, the courtroom was more crowded than before. The Jongs had brought friends, distant relatives, people who'd probably never met Marvelous but were willing to testify about bloodlines and family duty. Kathy had Min Seo, Ji-hoon, and 3 of her neighbors from the old apartment. Judge Hwan entered and the circus began. The Jongs' witnesses went first, talking about family heritage, proper upbringing, the importance of children knowing their roots. One woman actually said, "A child needs to be raised by their own people, not by strangers who can never truly understand their culture." Kathy felt rage building, but Bin Young's hand on her arm steadied her. "Wait," he murmured. "Our turn's coming." When attorney Myong called Min Seo to testify, she spoke clearly and firmly about Kathy's dedication as a mother, her work ethic, her love for Marvelous. "I've seen Ms. George sacrifice sleep, meals, her own comfort, everything, to ensure her daughter is safe and happy. That's not instability. That's devotion." Ji-hoon testified about the threats and surveillance from the Jong family, about the settlement offer in the park. "They don't want the child because they love her," he said bluntly. "They want her because their pride demands it. There's a difference." Then attorney Myong called Bin Young. "Mr. Kong, you've known Ms. George and her daughter for exactly 31 days now." "Correct. Correct. That's not very long. It's long enough to see what matters. Time doesn't measure love or commitment. Actions do. And in 31 days, I've seen Ms. George fight harder for her daughter than most people fight in a lifetime. What about you? What's your role in this family? Guardian. Protector. Probably. Father figure if Marvelous wants that as she grows up. And friend to Kathy." He looked directly at the Jongs. "I'm the person who shows up. That's my role. And I'll keep showing up for the rest of my life if necessary. Are you financially supporting Ms. George?" "Yes. Salary increases, housing assistance, childcare resources. Everything she needs to be successful." Some might say that's manipulation. Using money to create dependency. Some might say that's family. Helping each other survive. Bin Young's voice went cold. "I was an orphan. I know what it means to have nothing and no one. Ms. George and her daughter deserve better than struggling alone. So I'm making sure they don't have to. If that's manipulation, then every parent who supports their children is guilty too." The Jong's lawyer jumped up. "Your Honor, this proves our point. Ms. George is dependent on Mr. Kang's money. When he inevitably loses interest, she'll have nothing." "Then it's good I'm not going to lose interest," Bin Young said flatly. "I've made Marvelous my legal heir. Something happens to me, she inherits everything." Does that sound like someone planning to walk away? Silence fell across the courtroom. Even attorney Myong looked surprised. Bin Young apparently hadn't mentioned that part. "You made her your heir?" Judge Hwan asked. "When?" "Last week. Legal documents are filed and recorded. Marvelous is my goddaughter and my heir. Which means her security is permanent, not dependent on my mood or Ms. George's employment." Kathy's eyes burned with tears. He'd never said anything. Never even hinted. "That's a significant commitment," Judge Hwan observed. "She's a significant child, Your Honor. Worth every risk." He looked at the Jongs. "You want to talk about family duty? About proper upbringing? Your son kept Marvelous and her mother secret for 2 years. Hidden. Like they were shameful. And now you think you deserve custody because of blood? Blood means nothing without love. And you don't love Marvelous. You love the idea of her. The heir. The legacy. But she's not an idea. She's a baby who needs people who'll show up for her, fight for her, protect her. That's what Kathy does. That's what I do. What do you do?" The Jongs had no answer. Judge Hwan called for a recess. 90 minutes later, she returned with her decision. "I've reviewed all testimony, evidence, and investigative reports. This case comes down to one question. What serves the best interest of the child? She looked at the Jongs. Your family has resources and heritage to offer. But you also have a history of excluding this child's mother from your son's life. Of treating her as less than. Of attempting to buy custody rather than build relationship. That concerns me. He turned to Kathy. Ms. George, you have demonstrated consistent, devoted parenting. You've built a support system where none existed. You've fought for your daughter with everything you have. And Mr. Myong has proven himself to be a stable, committed guardian figure. Kathy couldn't breathe, couldn't move. Therefore, I'm granting full permanent custody to Ms. George, with Mr. Myong designated as legal guardian. The Jong family may petition for supervised visitation in 6 months if they can demonstrate genuine interest in Marvelous' well-being rather than their own pride. This case is closed. The gavel fell. Kathy heard it like a sound from another universe. They'd won. Marvelous was hers. Permanently. She turned to Bin-young, who was smiling. Really smiling for the first time since she'd met him. We won, she whispered. You won, he corrected. You fought and you won. We fought. We won. She grabbed his hand. Thank you. For everything. For showing up. For staying. For being exactly who Marvelous needed. Who Dubby needed, he said quietly. You saved me too, probably. Reminded me what it feels like to be human. Attorney Myong appeared, shaking both their hands. Congratulations. Now let's get out of here before they try to contest. They left through the back exit, avoiding the Jongs and their lawyers. In the car, Kathy finally let herself feel it. The relief, the joy, the overwhelming gratitude. I can't believe it's over, she said. It's not over, Bin-young replied. It's just beginning. Now comes the actual work. Raising Marvelous, building this family, figuring out what we are to each other. What do you think we are? He considered this. Family. Definitely. But also, maybe something more. Eventually. When the time is right. He looked at her. If you want that. Her heart stuttered. I might want that. Someday. Good. As I might want it too. Someday. He smiled. But for now, let's just focus on being what we already are. People who show up for each other. That's enough. At the penthouse, Min Seo had prepared a celebration dinner. Marvelous was crawling everywhere, delighted by the activity and attention. When she saw Bin-young, she made a beeline for him, pulling herself up using his legs and demanding to be picked up. Yes, Your Majesty, he said, lifting her. We won today. You're staying with your mama forever. Marvelous grabbed his nose, squeezed, giggled like always. And Bin-young laughed. The kind of real, unguarded laugh that made him look 10 years younger. She's got you completely wrapped around her finger, Kathy observed. Absolutely. I'm not even pretending otherwise. He bounced Marvelous gently. She crawled into my office and into my soul, remember? That's the title of your life now. No escaping it. I wouldn't want to escape. That night, after dinner and celebration and putting Marvelous to bed, Kathy and Bin-young ended up on the roof garden again. Their place. Their bench. What happens now? She asked. Now we live. We raise Marvelous. We figure out this family thing day by day. He paused. And in 6 months, when the Jongs petition for visitation, we'll deal with that too. Together. You think they will? Maybe. If they actually care about knowing Marvelous, I won't stop them. Family is complicated, blood and choice mixed together. She deserves to know where she comes from, even if those people failed her initially. That's very mature of you. I'm trying something new. Being reasonable. He smiled. Don't get used to it. I'm still a gangster underneath. A gangster who makes legal heirs out of babies and threatens lawyers with carefully worded promises. Exactly. I'm very dangerous. But his eyes were warm. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the city. Finally, Kathy said, the investigator asked me something weird during the interviews. Asked if I loved you. Bin-young went very still. What did you say? I said I didn't know. That I cared about you, trusted you, respected you. But love felt too big for 30 days. She looked at him. Was that the right answer? I don't know. What would you say now? After 31 days. Kathy thought about it. About soup and courtrooms and roof gardens. About the way he held Marvelous like she was made of precious things. About how he'd upended his entire life without hesitation just to keep them safe. I'd say, maybe, probably, but the beginnings of it at least. The kind that grows stronger the longer you stay. Good. His voice was rough. Bez, I'd say the same thing. Maybe, probably, but definitely growing. We're a mess, aren't we? 31 days and we're already halfway in love with each other. Completely inappropriate, he agreed. Terrible timing. Absolutely inadvisable. But I don't care. You and Marvelous walked into my life when I'd forgotten life could be anything other than business and strategy and careful control. You reminded me what it means to be human. To care about someone other than myself. To want things I'd given up on. He finally looked at her. So yes, maybe, probably, I love you both. And if that's a mess, it's the best mess I've ever made. Kathy felt tears slip down her cheeks. We're going to do this, aren't we? Shall try? Build something real. If you want to. No pressure. No expectations. Just possibility. I want to, she whispered. I want to try. Want to see where this goes. Good. He wiped her tears with his thumb. Because I'm very invested in this working out. I've already made Marvelous my heir. Can't exactly take that back now. She laughed through the tears. That's the only reason? No. But it's a very compelling one. He smiled. The other reasons include your daughter's excellent taste in people, your stubbornness matching mine, and the fact that you make my empty penthouse feel like home. That's better. I thought so. They sat there until the city lights blurred and the night grew cold. Then Bin-young walked her back inside, checked on Marvelous, sleeping peacefully with her river stone clutched in one hand, and said good night at Kathy's bedroom door. Tomorrow we start the next chapter, he said. What's that chapter called? Building. Growing. Becoming. He smiled. Or maybe just family. Simple and true. I like that. So do I. Sleep well, Kathy. You too, Bin-young. After he left, Kathy stood in her room and felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope that wasn't desperate but steady. Sure. Based on real things instead of empty promises. 31 days ago her life had been falling apart. Now it was being rebuilt into something stronger. All because a 10-month-old baby had crawled into a gangster's office and decided he was worth trusting. Sometimes Kathy thought the best families were the ones you chose. The ones built from showing up and fighting together and refusing to let impossible odds win. And sometimes the most dangerous men turned out to be the safest place to fall. She checked on Marvelous one more time, kissed her daughter's forehead and whispered, "We did it, baby. We're home." And for the first time in longer than she could remember, home felt permanent. Hey friends, that's the end of Chioma, Nia and Dae-young's story, and I'm still emotional about how a 10-month-old basically adopted a 50-year-old gangster. Drop a like, smash that subscribe button and tell me in the comments which part hit you hardest. Because I need to know you felt those feelings too.